So it is recording right now. So, hi, I'm Karen Tardive. I am the editor-in-chief of Gnashing Teeth Publishing, and I wanted to thank y'all so much for trusting us with your words. I was just thrilled with the way this anthology came together as our first project, and we couldn't have done it without y'all and trusting us to share your work. And I can't thank you enough for that. So my best friend since high school, Jennifer, is the other person. She's trying to get connected up right now on her computer, and I couldn't have done it without her. She was a big integral part of getting this done. And we also have added a new team member. His name is Joe Russo, and he's going to be doing a lot of our social media stuff. So we're excited to have him on board too. And we have another project in this right now, our Love Notes You'll Never Read anthology. And we have a couple of authors that we're speaking with. We've got a couple of contracts out for some poetry books that'll be coming up hopefully this year, towards the end of the year. So we're excited about that, and we appreciate your support and sticking with us through it all. And I have on my list, I had Sahana first, but I don't see that she has joined us. So I tell you what, I'm going to turn it over to Joe. And Joe, if you could just give us a brief little intro and then feel free to read your piece. I'm going to unmute you.
Hello, thank you. Hello, everyone. This is Leeds in the UK calling. It's nice to come and join you. It's as bad as everything else is with all the situation, the lockdown, etc. It's nice that things like this are happening so that we can connect to people that we might not ordinarily connect with, isn't it? I've got 2 poems in the anthology. Do you want me to just go ahead and do my poems? Is that the idea? I can't actually see what I'm being indicated to do. I'm going to do that. So, it said on the bag of nuts, may contain nuts. It did not contain nuts. I had eaten the nuts. That's my poem called Nuts, which is in the book, which I don't know, maybe the shortest poem in the book. I'm not sure. It's almost certainly the stupidest one.
No.
The other one I have in there is less stupid than that. It's a poem that was originally in my pamphlet, my first book, Killing the Piano. I just happen to have a copy here with me, and I normally try and do this from memory, but it's been a while since I've done it, so I'm not sure I can do it. So I'll have the safety words here with me. It's a poem called Oyster. I am the fisherman who plucked you from your bed, an oyster in its shell, closed up against the world. There is darkness in you. A single grain of sand that broke in long ago and burrowed deep inside. I do not know whether you took that intruder and sculpted it, shaped it into a perfect pearl, or chose to ignore it, denied its existence, allowed it to remain untreated, infected. Let me open your cage and take a look inside to see what you have made of the blemish you've borne. And if there is no pearl, I will devour your flesh, discard the empty shell, and dive for another. Thank you very much. That is it from me, I think. Cheers.
Thank you so much. Whew. It's so great hearing poets read their own words. It just gives it a whole next level. Okay, next on the list, I have Diane Kendig, and I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Diane, just tell us a little bit about yourself and read your work.
Thanks. First, I want to say how great it is to follow Joe. England is very dear to my family. My father was stationed in Thorpe Abbotts during World War II, and my sister taught in Alnwick. My husband and I love traveling there. And I have great-grandparents from Wales and Scotland in addition. So, my name's Diane Kendig. I have 5 chapbooks of poetry. I publish some prose too, and I translate. Right now I'm in the middle of a big project I have for the Cuyahoga County Public Library, where I publish 30 poets, one a day during National Poetry Month, and I provide a prompt, and we now have 4,000 readers. So that's really exciting, and we're having a lot of fun with that. Both of my poems end up being sort of odes to a food that I love, but also a memoir to a person who cooked them for me. And the first one is about a man that I traveled with when I was in college. And the poem tells you a little bit about him too. It's we were in Spain together. It's called Prepping Paella in Memory of MPS. The pans got oiled after the last use, so I just pull them out, rinse them off. After shopping, chopping is the big event. First onions, garlics, leeks, shallots, and parsley, then tomato, pepper, mushrooms. I clean the meat of the sea, scallops, mussels, clams, shrimp, lobsters, grouper, what have you, as our teacher used to say. And cut the meat of the land, rabbit, chicken, pork, chorizo. I mortar the aromatics, saffron and stuff, set out the rice while I warm the oven, the burner, the broth. All this the way you taught me. We cooked it together for years until you disappeared for decades. When I heard you were dying, I wrote, but you had died. When I take up the recipe card, I can still see it in one of your hands with you chop the air with saying, this is what we're going to do, this. With all the presents that fueled everything you were doing, furniture making, bread baking, traveling to Africa, cooking paella, your obituary said. And it said your final mantra was, open your heart. And I hear mine creak. The second poem is really, thank you. You guys are so sweet. This is so wonderful. The second one is really about my grandmother, my mother, and her folks from Blantyre, Scotland. She died in 1987. And the poem mentions my father, who died just a year ago last month. It was written when he was still living. Eating oatmeal. Oat groats, rolled cut, pulverized to porridge, food of my childhood and now. Most mornings, revered by my mother as her mother's depression staple. My father's family served Pennsylvania Dutch mush. Mom served it the times we had time for stewing. That grain given, as Johnson said, to English horses and Scottish men. But such horses, such men, replied the laird. She convinced my father of it for breakfast, and though she's dead 10 years, he has it each morning in his dementia, maintaining mobility, cheer, continence, health, and a deep belief in oatmeal, which I believe in since my doctor looked at my numbers and said, I guess it does work. So I went further to its cakes, its haggis, its laverbread burgers, but mostly to what we North Americans call oatmeal, meaning morning hot cereal steaming now in my pan due to land in my bowl and stick with me. Thank you.
All right, next up on the list, thank you so much. That was great. And I love the stories behind the poems. That's so wonderful. Next up, we've got Joan Leota, and I'm gonna turn your mic on. There we go, and mute myself.
Thanks, Karen. This is so much fun. I love seeing all of you. I've looked at your poems in the book, and now seeing you, it just makes it so much nicer to read them. But I often write about food. My poetry chapbook is called Languid Lusciousness with Lemon, food. And I have 4 novels out and 4 children's books, and I write lots of articles and for the newspapers and magazines, a lot of them dealing with food. So it was no surprise to me when looking at the leftover carrot curry one day that a poem came out of it. So the name of this poem is, by the way, I'm reading it from my phone. So I think I was part of the problem with the feedback earlier, but I finally got that thing turned off and was able to, so I just have it here. I'm at my daughter's in Northern Virginia. She just moved from a condo to a house, and I didn't have anything with me. And I said, I'll join if you can send me my poem. So Karen mailed it to me, so I have to read it. My daughter doesn't have a working printer, so I had to read it from one device and join you on another. So I wanted to join you on the iPad so I could see more of you. So here we go. Cold carrot curry. Remnants of last night's carrot curry, our weekly vegetarian meal, sit in the square glass bowl on the bottom shelf of our refrigerator. I lift the silicone preserver, sniffing and inspecting swirls of browned cumin and ginger playing about the edges of carrot discs, and chickpeas congealed in bright yellow oil, and circles, which also encircles, framing the carrot discs and envelops the chickpeas on top. The aroma of ginger tempts my hunger, and I pull it out. Reheat? Stovetop or microwave? Tradition or modern solution for this ancient recipe? Yet that congealed fat calls to my half piece of naan like a rich butter in current form. The bowl is like a paisley symphony, an edible silken sati. Instead of heating to rejoin flavors, my naan scoops a portion to the mouth where taste buds and my psyche revel in each aspect of yesterday's glory. Separate flavors, textures come together in the heat of my mouth to reform the dish as is, straight from the refrigerator. Sighing, I find resurrecting this cold version superior even to last night's warm delight. I reach for a glass of pomegranate juice to toast my discovery that carrot curry is a dish best served cold. And that's it. Thank you. Thanks.
All right, let's see. Okay, Jennifer, I don't see your face, but.
Oh, unmute me. Sorry, we're working on it.
That's okay. I think we're all having, well, I'm having technical difficulties. So,
I am just, I don't know technology difficulties, so.
Well, I'm going to pop down the list. Our next reader has not appeared. So I'm going to hop down to Mr. John Biggs. Jennifer, I'm going to mute you and I'm going to unmute John. So John, hi, welcome.
I hope you don't regret unmuting me. Yeah, I'm a retired dentist who started writing fairly seriously maybe 25 years ago. And so far, I'm the only fiction writer among poets here tonight. This piece, Firsts and Lasts, is part of a longer piece of unpublished fiction currently, hoped to be published relatively quickly. And I'm trying to make a little bit of social commentary along with maybe a little statement about the diet of people on death row as well. It's Firsts and Lasts. Everything on death row was firsts and lasts. Grady Wheeler learned that on day one as a guard. His first job as a member of the team was taking Jimbo Turner's last meal order. That don't sound too demanding, one of the older correctional officers told him, but it ain't as easy as you think. Grady hadn't gotten around to learning names, but it was all smiles and goodwill. He stood outside the door of Jimbo's cell. Early the next morning, a pair of correctional officers would open that door and take him to the execution chamber. They'd walk on either side of him like a pair of Secret Service agents escorting an important politician. The prison chaplain would bring up the rear unless the inmate didn't want him. It was one of the few choices left to a condemned man. Last meal was another. Hey, Jimbo. Grady's teammates told him first names usually work best. Faces popped into the square reinforced windows and the steel doors of all the cells. Got your last meal all picked out? He didn't want to say last meal or last anything for that matter, but there was no avoiding it. Don't want no cooking, Jimbo's voice rumbled like the growl of a big dangerous animal. The team had warned Grady what to expect. A death warrant sat on a condemned man's stomach like a brick. Plenty of death row inmates were crazy, but few were crazy enough to be hungry. A pair of guards stood down the hallway watching to see how the new boy handled the situation. Don't be that way, Jimbo, the other guards told Grady to hold out all the hopes he could short of telling an outright lie. Governor may call. One of the COs gave him a thumbs up. Jimbo Turner was a big man, and they'd have a hard time moving him if he didn't want to go, and there'd be reporters looking for a story. He usually calls at the last minute. Men turned quiet on their last day, even loud men like Jimbo. No good rushing them, but waiting, it was best to keep the conversation going. If he calls, you won't get nothing till lunch, Grady said. Anything you want. If the kitchen can't cook it, we'll order out as long as it don't cost over $15. Some inmates had mamas who'd cook chicken and dumplings with biscuits and green casserole, but Jimbo's family wasn't in a catering mood. After a short wait, the inmate said, ain't had no chili dogs in a long while. Faces behind the nearby death row windows smiled in agreement. No beans in that chili. Once Jimbo settled on a main course, his enthusiasm grew. Excellent choice, Grady said. You want fries with that? When Jimbo substituted onion rings, the CO watching Grady gave him a double thumbs up. Not bad for his first day on the job.
Okay, let me you. Oh. Oh, sorry. Thank you. It's great to have some fiction in with the poetry. I love flash fiction. I'm a big fan. So Jennifer has joined us, and I'm going to interrupt real quick, and I'm going to unmute Jennifer and let her introduce herself. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi guys. I'm really excited to put faces and voices with some of this work that I've read a bajillion times, and I loved hearing that in your voice, John. That was great. So I am Gnashing Teeth's content editor. I'm in Iowa. Karen and I do everything via email, pretty much. I am mostly responsible for meticulous proofreading and figuring out the layout and the flow of things. And so to that end, I hope I did a good job. That's about all. I'm just excited to hear everybody. You take it away, Karen.
And big props to Jennifer for the cover artwork. When
Thank you.
It wasn't originally, and she said, hey, I have this idea. And when she sent it to me, I was blown away. So Jennifer, thank you so much. It
Thanks.
really, I think, brought it together.
Thank you. It was fun.
All righty. The next person on our list is not here. So I'm going to, mute you. I'm going to move down to Joanne Jagoda, and let me unmute you, mute myself. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joanne Jagoda in Oakland, California. Like all of you, sheltered in place or whatever you call it. And it's been interesting and certainly challenging, but we're just staying healthy. So that's the main thing. So I'm going to read, I was just going to read one poem, but if it's okay, I'll read the second one. It's a bit longer. The first poem is called Mr. Avocado Man. An older man in khakis and a giant's cap sits on a bench in late afternoon sun outside Whole Foods on Telegraph Avenue, meticulously stacking slices of whole wheat bread, then placing one on a napkin. He cuts and positions slivers with his plastic knife from a luscious avocado, perfectly split, pit left in, setting the pieces like a precious mosaic, then scooping the sandwich with the napkin, pressing the two halves together. Over and over he does this, absorbed and content with his handiwork on his whole wheat canvas, then swallows each in a few voracious bites, taking up the next slice to begin his avocado dance again. I am mesmerized, envious, picking at my tuna on a hard French roll, having just come from the hospital up the street, refusing to eat in their cafeteria, though there's nothing really wrong with the food, except for me wanting out of the building. My newly discovered lump gnaws, an unwelcome foreign invader. How did it worm its way into my soft and sexy right breast? I throw away my half-eaten sandwich, closing my eyes as tears pool. Sweet memories tingle of fevered nighttime groping and morning caresses under tangled sheets. I cling to my husband of 43 years. Tell me, Mr. Avocado Man, do you come here every day with your stack of bread and perfect avocado? Show me how you make your sandwiches. Help me to forget today and what I must face tomorrow. Okay, the other one is, thank you. It's emotional for me to read this one, of course. And this is really very sweet to do this because I was supposed to be in my first poetry reading at a local library, which of course got canceled and all this craziness. So this kind of makes up for it. So this poem, and I hope it won't be too long for you, it's called 1/2 Eggshell of Water, and it's about my mother. 1/2 eggshell of water. The kitchen was her kingdom, bright and warm by the relentless sun that poured through the glass skylight, faded the Norman Rockwell calendar from the mortuary hanging on the wall, crinkled the appointment cards, and bleached the Congolium floor. There she reigned supreme on the white O'Keefe and Merritt, only one smallish oven and broiler, a pilot that went out regularly, and the clock that always read 12:30. Those meals bound our family, the schnitzel liver and onions, hamburger on Wednesday nights, eaten in front of the TV to watch Superman, the tuna casserole on Thursdays with chocolate pudding for dessert, a thick skim on top. No different than most families, we had our share of elephants in the living room, hulking and looming, but she stepped around them. Be polite and say thank you, her cardinal rules, she drummed into us girls, though she had little patience, and we had zero interest in her kitchen as first-generation overachievers, driven to excel in school. Yet we do things just like her and gleaned more from her innate sense of dignity and propriety than any recipes and cooking techniques she could have shown us. Her table set and decorated just so, with linen tablecloths and napkins, plastic flowers stuck in the silver holders, and we mastered how to perfectly garnish the stuffed eggs with pimento and paprika, and put out the gefilte fish on crisp romaine, and don't forget the parsley. Gathered around the blonde wood dining room table, shining Sabbath candles lit, challah covered and sweet wine poured, we were infused with rich traditions which gave us our bearings. Passover Seders and Thanksgiving, abundant and delicious, Even simple dinners served to my father on the formica table in the kitchen were never thrown together. No fast food or takeout, no shortcuts from a box. How was it that everything tasted better? Her thick fingers working and stirring. Even good seasoned dressing mixed in the glass cruet was different at her house, my children insisted, and they were right. The comfort in knowing exactly what would be in the green porcelain Lazy Susan for her Yom Kippur break the fast, the egg salad with mayo and French's mustard, the tuna and her secret of finely chopped peppers, onions, and celery, and don't forget the parsley. My cousins came from their Eastern colleges to spend holidays, to be stuffed and coddled, and to receive the common sense wisdom that came dished out with all her meals. Anyone who entered her door would be enveloped in her warmth and hospitality, and you couldn't leave without having a little something, even if she only had hot dogs in the fridge to make for you that day. They tasted better than any you had before. A baker since childhood, before she fled Hitler's Germany, her apple cake with a soft cookie dough crust, masterful. Divine cherry tarts and applesauce cakes, the Zwetschgenkuchen, Streuselkuchen, and Nusskuchen, and she prepared Ike's chocolate birthday cake, like any proud American. And you might have been called upon to drive a chiffon cake over to Auntie Sadie, or deliver a honey cake for a Shiva, or take matzo ball soup to our Catholic neighbors, or shuttle her hamantaschen over on Purim. And if you were lucky to score a tin of her chocolate chip cookies, hard in just the right way, don't even try to stop at just one. Hands down, the best of anything she made. And in the end, when her body gave up, she could barely stand or walk and shuffled on her walker. Her hand shook and she forgot how to make coffee, and simple meals were carried to her on a TV tray by her helper. We dutifully brought over filled Tupperware containers, and she was grateful for whatever we made, even preparing a scrambled egg. That was just her way. And when she passed, we gathered the precious tattered recipes in bits and pieces, half in German, written in her backhanded scrawl. And when they called for half an eggshell of water, we broke down and wept. For we knew we could never make her recipes, even if we could measure a half eggshell of water, for they stood for everything she was, and they would never be the same. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was so emotional hearing you read that.
Thank you.
So, Joe has joined us. Joe is the newest member of our team, and I'm gonna unmute you. There we go. I'm just figuring this out. I finally figured out how to do the speaker view for Joanne. So I apologize for everybody else that was stuck in a small picture for your reading. But Joe, just give us a little introduction so we can meet you.
Hi everyone, I'm Joe. I got my puppy here next to me. And that's just about it. I'm glad to be part of the team here.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you.
Mm-hmm. We're doing good. We got 82 new followers on Instagram. Yep. So we're making a small presence here.
Yay.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Well, we needed your help.
I'm here.
So, all right. Next up on my list was Jacqueline. Hi, how are you?
Hi. It's so nice to see everybody and to put some faces with the names and the writing. I'm originally from New York, but I live in Toronto in Canada now. And at the moment, I'm actually very glad to be here. It's a good place to be. And the poem that I contributed to this volume is actually, it's called a haibun, which is a Japanese form. and it's usually written in where you have a prose poem that's followed by a short lyrical poem, kind of like something sort of like a haiku, although it doesn't follow the same form as the haiku. I was actually very pleased with the way that it was formatted. I think it looks really, really great in the book. So thank you for doing justice to it. So this is called Bones, and well, as you can probably tell from the poem itself, it deals with and something that I struggled with a lot, especially when I was younger, and with anorexia. And so food was a very important part of growing up. Even if I wasn't actually eating it, it was a very important part of my life. So this is called Bones. Thick, savory smells of Thanksgiving turkey, stuffing, tzimmus, stewing, carrots, prunes, pineapple, and honey, sour sweet, like the memories that came today. My mother's kugel, not particularly patriotic, not something the Pilgrims would have eaten. But that's the beauty of Thanksgiving. History amended as necessary. I remember the lean days, my lean days, when I would eat nothing at the table, a nibble or two for the sake of peace, perhaps. And to escape, I would do the cleanup, eating what was left on the plates to feed my salience, my wisdom, fighting the urge for invisibility, striving for indentation at any sign of rondure, bones with only the slightest remains of meat. And somehow she espied me, somehow she discerned that she could see my reflection in the china cabinet, if the angle was just right. She could see me, my method of cleaning up, eating everyone else's unwanteds, taking in the unwanted to reinforce my own sense of unwantedness, the invisible vying for visibility made by reflection and degrees. And here I thought I was getting away with something, unknowing that visibility was not as elusive as I believed, or invisibility. She only told me this years later, when the china cabinet was long gone and my need for invisibility had become less urgent, less viable, or less visible. A revised memory demands refraction, a new brand of mirroring. The intentional gaze remanded, its angles softened, sour sweet. Thank you very much. This is a really wonderful gathering.
Okay, there I go. I keep forgetting to unmute myself. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know it was very personal for you, and I just wanted to honor your words. So thank you for sharing with us. Next up, we've got Stephanie. And let me wait. Are you unmuted?
Hello. Yes, I'm unmuted, I think. Is that right? You can hear me? It's just hearing the poems in your voices is just so beautiful to me. I can feel all the emotion that's in the last few poems. I mean, all of your poems and prose. It's very, very wonderful to be a part of this little event here. And I'm originally from San Francisco. I live in the Bay Area, and as you all are, I'm sequestered here. But I'm going to read a poem. I had 3 poems in the anthology, but I'm going to only read 2 of them. The first one is a poem that comes from my childhood. It was growing up in San Francisco, and every Passover we would go down to McAllister Street where the fish markets were, and we would my mother would get the fish brown there, and I would wander around the store, and I had always a very fanciful interior life too. So this is based on lots of experiences in my life, and also it's triggered by that experience of being on McAllister Street, called During the Butchering. A woman waits in a long line to buy fish, calculating how much she needs to serve 24 and how many bones. She watches the man scoop carp out of the tank. They flop on the block until he hits them behind the eyes. Their guts pile in a bucket beneath the counter. At the back of the store, behind a door of wired glass, a man clutches a chicken by the neck, slits its throat, severs neck from the body, the limp head on a wooden surface. He looses hold and the body scurries across the cement floor, wings flapping. The woman's daughter watches the man chase it, sees more headless hens run wild over fields with policemen in pursuit, pointing their guns, hunters with rifles slung, and a wolf tied to a long pole. A Maasai youth, ochred and wrapped in purple blankets, his foreskin split, carries an olive fire stick. The bitterness of acacia smoke lingers on his skin. The daughter watches detached, remembering the feel of chicken skin loose on the necks of young hens before she tossed them into soup with long pointed carrots, tufts of celery, and chunks of parsnip aromatic as wine. After her mother's death, she carries her year after year to the fish market, all the heads ready to use, but the eyes milky, the scent fishy rather than briny. And as she skins fillets, pulls the bones left by shoddy knife work, the Maasai boy starts out across the Serengeti with his fellows armed with bow and arrow, pointed sticks to fend off lions, seeking sunbird, barbet, curacoa to brighten his headdress. She feels herself leave with him, brightening her headdress with the whitened bones lifted from the broth, seeking the lilac-breasted roller. And the second poem is called Mustard and Cress, and it's a poem that was written a little while ago, but I've had an experience recently that made me feel the way that this poem made me feel when I was writing, or that came from the experiences that I had when I wrote this poem. So it's very timely for me. Mustard and Cress. Somehow I did not cut the muster up. Was not spicy enough. Should have cut it with horseradish. Now I'm hoarse with onion allergy, my eyes dripping from the fumes. I rest with how to play it, cool and sassy with a grinding of fresh pepper, or sad and tormented, overdone pasta with bland pesto, not enough basil, the garlic raw, the pine nuts rancid. I could add cress for the greens, not watercress, but salad cress. A British friend once told me the difference. I am wistful, wish to play whist, to take my mind off, cut to the chase. Next is the cheese. Do I want to cut that? I am leaning into the wind, so the rest is behind me.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much. That was great. And all right, next up, and I think last on the list, but certainly not least, we have Eric Max Valentonis. And let me unmute you. And I think, let me mute myself. Take it away.
All right. I have a short story or a recipe. It's hard to tell which, maybe. For the love of chili. At the office, the workday winds down. A few of the newer people ask what and where his vacation will be. He slightly shakes and lowers his head as he tidies his desk. Someone comments that even on the day before his vacation, he still doesn't loosen his tie. He's a hard worker, efficient and prepared, stays late, the boss compliments. He deserves his privacy. Once every year, he takes a week-long vacation. For the past 15 years, he's worked for the same company, never misses work, never late. No one has found out about his vacation. No pictures, no stories, no hints. Even when he goes out with colleagues or on a date, there is something held back. When he arrives home, he washes all his clothes, puts them neatly in the closet. He unplugs every electrical appliance, then stacks them under the hanging clothes. Only the refrigerator and stove remain functional. The refrigerator is empty except 2 heads of lettuce. In the middle of the night, he goes to a supermarket when there are no people around. He buys 2 cans of red kidney beans, 1 bottle of cayenne black pepper sauce, 1 container of oregano, 1 small jar of mustard, 1 can of tomato paste, 1 container of black pepper, 1 container of white pepper, 1 container of salt, 1 block of Colby cheese, 1 pound of fresh ground steak, 3 eggs, 1 loaf of natural whole wheat bread, 3 medium Vidalia onions, 4 cloves of garlic, 1 pack of non-filtered cigarettes, 3 bottles of 1973 California white wine, 1 bottle of 20-year-old sour mash whiskey, and for this year's change, 1 container of peanut oil. He pays with $2 bills. When he gets home, he puts all the food away. He locks all the doors and windows, draws down blinds and curtains. He pushes all the furniture up against the doors and walls, the dresser's drawers facing the wall. He drapes red velvet over all the furniture, placing and lighting yellow candles across the room. He strips. He puts his suit into the hamper. He unpacks the white silk suit from the dry cleaning bags. He hangs it in the kitchen. He bathes. Half-cup mineral oil, hot water, burns frankincense incense, scrubs down with a loofah. He dries and wraps himself in a black cotton robe. He lies down in the middle of the room. For the next 2 days, he eats only lettuce and drinks water. On day 3, he changes into the white silk suit. He brings out his special cooking utensils. He puts the beans in a pot with half cup of water. He adds 2/3 teaspoon cayenne pepper sauce, 1 1/4 teaspoon oregano, 1 1/2 tablespoon tomato paste, 1 tablespoon mustard, half teaspoon salt, and 1 teaspoon of white pepper. He turns the burner to simmer. He places the lid on the pot. He toasts 5 slices of whole wheat bread, cuts off and eats the crusts, crumbles it, mixing together 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1/4 teaspoon black pepper, and 1/2 teaspoon oregano, all in a clear glass bowl. He peels 2 cloves garlic, thinly slicing one and dicing the other. He pours 1/4 cup white wine into a skillet. He scatters the garlic slices in the wine, then scatters the diced garlic over it all. He sautés it for 3 minutes. He drains the wine and separates the garlic into 2 more or less equal piles. He peels and dices the onions, places 2 in the skillet with 1/4 cup peanut oil. He sautés them until they are golden brown. He drains the oil and places the sautéed onions in a pile near the garlic. He peels the last 2 cloves of garlic, 1 slicing and dicing 2. He places them with the uncooked diced onion. He separates 2 eggs, adding the white to the breadcrumbs. He adds the ground steak, 1/4 teaspoon cayenne pepper sauce, 1/4 teaspoon mustard, the sautéed onions, 1 pile sautéed garlic, and 2 shots of whiskey. He reaches into the bowl vigorously, kneading the mixture until it is thoroughly mixed. He flattens the meat into a skillet. He puts the other pile of sautéed garlic into the beans, which he stirs 5 times. He puts the burner for the meat on medium-high. He lights a cigarette. When he is done smoking, he flips over all the meat, breaking it into small chunks. He then lights another cigarette, smokes it, takes the meat off the stove and drains the juices. He takes the cheese and slices it into small slivers, 1/2 inch long. He places the cheese next to the cut onions and garlic. He places the meat in with the beans, turning the burner up to medium. He stirs the mixture together, drinks 1 shot of whiskey, and smokes 1 cigarette. He uncorks the chilled wine and places it in the middle of the floor, letting it breathe. He turns the burner back down to simmer, stirs the chili, then scoops out 1 bowl full. He grabs 1/2 handful cut onion, garlic, and cheese, and places that on top of the chili in the bowl. He sits down next to the wine and eats until the whole bowl of chili is gone. He smiles. He belches. It is done. One of these years, he won't uncover the furniture. He won't plug in the appliances back in. He won't go back to work. He lies down. Some people have dreams bigger than imagination itself. Next year, he'll add rice. And I know that was a little long, but I do have 1 more. It's a short poem, just to be silly. Random recipes. Curried pterodactyl with fried bananas. Ingredients: 1 pterodactyl, 5 pounds of curry, 30 bananas. You'll need 1 turkey baster, 1 blowtorch, 5 fuel tanks for a blowtorch, 1 mallet, 1 backup mallet, in case you're a messy cook like me, 1 hacksaw. Directions: bam, burn, bite. Thank you all.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And guys, that's it for our readers tonight. I'm sure some of the people that wanted to join us probably had some technical difficulties. It's okay, it happens. But thank you so much. This is like my favorite thing. I like to share it wherever I can. I'm gonna, hold on, unmute everybody real quick. Unmute.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Will this be posted on Facebook page? Is that?
Yes, it's been recording this whole time. I couldn't get it to go live. I couldn't get it to connect. I don't know why it wasn't working this time, but I will be posting the replay as soon as my computer can upload it.
Okay, great. Then we can have